in your book, you're talking about how it's not fully accurate and it's just kind of made up. But that can be challenging, I'm sure, for people to hear who say, no, but I have this. And it's like, we're not saying you don't have a thing, but can you tell us just, we'll get into it deeper and deeper, but like overview, what is it? What is the DSM? What's it supposed to be for? And what is it really at, the underbelly of it?
You asked, this was all incredibly threatening to me. So it was a relief in some ways, but if you had taken away some of my diagnoses, I would have wrestled you to the ground. I mean, I was so identified with them. And I thought that they helped. I've since read, and looked at studies, and they've actually found that people who believe there's a biological cause to their diagnoses have more stigma, more self-stigma, more shame, and are more hopeless about their diagnoses. So that's kind of interesting just to keep in mind. But not everybody is. And I respect that. I mean, there are some communities that are really emboldened by their diagnoses that really come together. The autism community is a great example. And that's a diagnosis that to me is like, there's complications with the Asperger's and all of that, but we won't go into that. But what I really do want to explain to all your listeners, and thank you again for having me on. This is such a great opportunity, that all I want is not to take away anyone's diagnosis, because that felt right for me not to identify with one, though I still very much identify with having a mental illness. I still take meds. I still see a psychiatrist. I will always take meds because I'm pretty sure my body's dependent on them. And I have no shame about that. I don't need to be psychopharmacologically pure to be well. That's just how, it's complicated. We're kind of in a sticky thing. So for me, I think everyone has to make their own decision. Do they want to keep their diagnosis? Do they want to identify with it completely? Do they want to take it with a grain of salt, use it for what it's worth? And I'll explain why. So the reason is that, we really have this luxury right now because the DSM has in some ways, as I said, it's a book. That's all it is. When someone said to me, you have bipolar disorder, I imagined, microscopes and people in lab coats making tests and deciding who has bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
But the problem with DSM diagnoses is that there is no biological marker for any of them. What that means is there's no test. So we often like to say mental illness is the same as physical illness. And that comes from a really good place, which is we need to respect it the same. We need to honor it the same. We need to have mental health days if we need them. Absolutely. But they aren't the same, with the exception of dementia and rare chromosomal disorders that are in the DSM. No single diagnosis has an objective reality. They are dependent completely on self-reported symptoms, totally subjective, and a clinician's opinion, totally subjective.